Good morning. Yes, it's a little chilly here today. I think what 13, 14 degrees. I don't know. For us that's chilly. So I got the scarf on, but I think it'll warm up. Sun's shining, that's a good thing. Anyhow, got a lot to talk about this week. I've seen a lot of films this week. I saw Monday night, I saw Suspiria, the new one. I'll talk about that in a couple weeks because it's opening here at the end of the month. Then I saw Tuesday I saw Instant Family. I'll talk about that one in a minute. Then Wednesday, I saw The Rider, really good film. I'll talk about that probably next week. If you have a chance to see it, The Rider, definitely check it out. Then I saw the BBC documentary by Peter Jackson called They Shall Not Grow Old about World War One. Yeah, I'll probably talk about that one next week as well. Very good. And then last night I saw Glass, M. Night Shyamalan's latest film in his trilogy. And I'll talk about a little bit about that one today. Not a lot because it's still sort of floating around. I only saw it last night, so it's floating around in my head. I need to think more about what I want to say, but I'll talk a little bit about it. So anyhow, let's talk about a film that I saw last week that I did. It actually already played here in Hong Kong. It came and left very, very quiet a couple months ago, but I don't think it's going to come back to Hong Kong, but I have a feeling it's playing in North America. So people might want to check it out. It's probably playing on airplanes, and Chinese New Year's coming up. You're going to be flying, so you might want to watch it. So the film is called Beautiful Boy, not A Beautiful Boy, just Beautiful Boy, and it stars Timothée Chalamet, who was in Lady Bird and Call Me By Your Name, fabulous, both of them great films, but I really love Call Me By Your Name, and Steve Carell, most famously known from TV's American version of The Office, but he's been in a lot of films. He's transitioned himself very successfully into a film star. He was fabulous in Foxcatcher. He was great in The Big Short, Woody Allen's Cafe Society, not a great film, and he was Bobby Riggs in Battle of the Sexes, which yeah, I thought he was good. It wasn't a great film, but I thought he was good. So it stars these two, and they play real life people by the name of Nick Sheff and his father David Sheff. David Sheff is a freelance writer, and well, he always was a writer, but this movie is based on complimentary memoirs that the two men wrote. David, the father, wrote Beautiful Boy, a father's journey through his son's addiction, and his son, Nick, wrote Tweak, growing up on methamphetamines. And this movie recounts the pair's personal journey of Nick cycling from usage of drugs to treatment to sobriety to relapse and back again a few times, because it's a vicious circle for most drug addicts. And like most parents of drug addicts, David is there to bail them out basically until it gets to the point where he thinks that he can fix his son, and I use "fix" in air quotes here. He thinks he can fix his son, but it's expensive. It's expensive. The rehab and tough love doesn't work. Soft love doesn't work until it really almost destroys his marriage to his current wife, artist Karen, played by Maura Tierney, who is probably best known for TV's ER, and their two young children, and also his ex-wife Vicky, played by Amy Ryan, who is in Birdman and a few other films. And so what happens is this whole cycle of that he goes through, that the son goes through, it really plays havoc. Not only plays havoc on the boy, but it plays havoc on the father and the father's family, until the father, David, realizes he can't help his son, and he has to leave the young man to work out his demons on his own. And I think a lot of parents do come to that sad realization that they can't help their child, and it's a heartbreaking thing. I don't know about it, but I just assume it's heartbreaking. So this film is directed by Belgian Felix van Groningen. He did the Oscar-nominated film The Broken Circle Breakdown, which I didn't see, but I heard it's very good. This is his first English language feature, and I think he did a good job, but unfortunately, I think the script was really weak. The script is written by Luke Davies, who did Lion. I hated Lion. I liked the first half of Lion as a little boy, hated the second half with Dev Patel. Although I like Dev Patel, I hated the movie. I don't know, a lot of people loved it. I hated it. So I'm not a big Luke Davies fan in terms of his writing. And certainly I found this film is fairly one note, and it's laden with flashbacks that fail to adhere to any logical timeline. They're like, like this. And you know what, and afterwards I thought to myself, I suppose in real life, flashbacks, you have a flashback 5 years ago, you have a flashback 10 years ago, you have a flashback of 3 weeks ago. They're all over the place. But when you're watching a movie, if you're going to go non-linear, it's got to make some sense at the end. And it didn't make, first of all, it's really hard to follow because the flashbacks are like, they're all over the place. But they don't make sense. At the end, it doesn't come together in any coherent way. They're just flashbacks for the sake of time fillers. And I get that he was trying to show that flashbacks are non-linear in real life. Great. It didn't work for me. It was confusing to watch. It was tedious to watch, to tell you the truth. So it just wasn't interesting at all. So what? As I was watching this film, I was thinking there is a good story here, but this isn't it. This isn't the story. And I almost want to read the two memoirs just to, read what really happened. But I probably won't. but I just thought the script is just not good. And what made it worse, what made the film worse for me, is the musical selections. Musical selections, it's a tough line because you want to have music that somehow relates to the story, but you don't want it too close. You don't want it too on the nose. And that's the problem here, is that the song selections are really on the nose because, of course, you have John Lennon's Beautiful Boy. That one's a given. You've got to have that one because the name of the movie is Beautiful Boy. But then you had this really trickly rendition, Perry Como's version of Sunrise Sunset. I mean, look, I like Fiddler on the Roof, but I mean, this was just like facepalm, Sunrise Sunset, come on. I mean, that was just too schmaltzy. So that was bad. So, ugh. So, but on the other hand, saying something nice, I thought Chalamet and Steve Carell were both excellent in their roles. Timothy Chalamet apparently lost 25 pounds for this role. I mean, the kid probably weighs like 98 pounds wet. So he was really skinny, but, good for him that he did it. Apparently the doctors were watching him very carefully because he is so skinny to begin with. And then he just went like right down. So from what I read, they filmed his skinny scenes first, and then he put the weight back on towards the end. And no great spoiler, he wrote a book, so he's not dead. So yeah, I thought the performances were good. Script was bad. Music was bad. So all in all, I think this could have been a really good film, but as it is, it's a really mediocre film. So rather disappointing. So as I said, the movie came to Hong Kong in October. It came left. There was no promotion, no advertising. They didn't have a press screening, nothing. But it's now available on Amazon Prime and probably on some airlines. So I'd say, you know what, if you're sitting around, you got nothing better to watch, check it out. Good performances, but could have been a much better film than it was, which is what I said about Lion. Could have been a better film. So that's my take on Beautiful Boy. Now, two big films opening in Hong Kong this week. The first is Instant Family, starring Mark Wahlberg. Now, how often do you watch a movie trailer and you think, oh my God, this is going to be awful? And then the word comes out that it's actually a good film. Now, when you think about it, the opposite probably happens. You watch a film, you think, wow, this is going to be great, and then the word comes out and it's awful. But with this film, I just thought this is just going to be horrible. And people are, you read things. I don't read other people's reviews before I watch a film because I don't even watch trailers. If possible, I don't even watch trailers before I watch a film because I really want to go into a film, as a blank slate. So, but you hear things, and I'll read a headline that's, the most I'll know is a headline, and so I was reading headlines that people are liking this film. I couldn't believe it. But then I went in and I saw this film, and you know what? It really is as bad as I thought it was going to be. I hated this film, yet everybody in my audience, except for my friend Liz and I, who's also a critic, they loved it. The two of us were sitting there going, "Oh my God, this is horrible." And everybody else was laughing. And I said to Liz, "I think we're too cynical. I think this is our problem." So here's the story. So Mark Wahlberg plays this guy, Pete Wagner, and he's happily married. He's, barely 40 something. Excuse me, Mark Wahlberg's 47. Hard to play a barely 40 something when you're 47. He does, And so he's happily married to a woman by the name of Ellie, who's played by Rose Byrne, who is in Spy and a few other films. And they have a successful business. They flip houses, they buy old houses, renovate them, and then sell them. And they're doing quite well. And although Pete wanted to have kids, when they were younger, Ellie didn't think the time was right for a number of different reasons, and life started, took over. And they, now they're in their early 40s, or at least Pete is, and he doesn't really want to have kids at this point, but she's thinking maybe she does. So he says to her rather jokingly, "Look, if we can start with a 5-year-old, then I'm interested." He says it as a joke, but it gives her the idea that maybe they should become foster parents. So the couple joins a community group of prospective foster parents. I didn't know there was such a thing, but let's assume that there is. And this group is run by two social workers, Karen, who's played by Octavia Spencer. Now, I just want to say about Octavia Spencer, when she's good, she's really good. Like The Shape of Water, she was really good. Hidden Figures, of course, she was really good. When she's bad, she's really bad. And I think Fathers and Daughters. And I don't know that it's so much her. I think it's the director. I think she's got a good director, then she's really good. So in this film, okay, she's fine, but the director. So she plays Karen, one of these two social workers. She's sort of like the loose cannon. And her colleague is Sharon, who's played by Tig Notaro, who's a stand-up comedian. I saw her in TV's Transparent a few years back. And Sharon's just the opposite. Sharon's very by the book. So the two of them are like, Oliver and Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. Laurel and Hardy, literally. One's the straight man and one's the jokester. And so they run this foster parents community group to sort of get people interested in becoming foster parents. Now they go to I don't know what you call it, a child fair, a child foster adoption fair. I honestly don't believe there could be such a thing where you go and you shop for a child. If there is such a thing, I am aghast. I am aghast that there is such a thing. So they go to this child fair, and they see this feisty 15-year-old named Lizzie, played by Isabella Moner, who was in Sicario, Day of the Soldado. I liked her in that film, although the film wasn't as good as the first Sicario, but I thought she was very good. And so she's this feisty 15-year-old, and they take a shining to her, and they go back to these two social workers. They say she's the one we want to adopt. But they find out that she comes as a package deal. She's got younger brother and sister. She's got a younger brother named Juan, who's about 9 years old. He's a real klutz, and he's hypersensitive. And he's got about a 5-year-old, 6-year-old little sister named Lita, who's completely bratty. All she eats is potato chips. So they decide, okay, we'll foster all three of them. So the family of 2 now becomes a family of 5 overnight. And things go surprisingly well at first. And so they go back to this support group, which is now, instead of prospective foster parents, they're now foster parents. And they go back to this support group. And while everybody else is saying, oh my God, this is so difficult, it's so challenging, it's so this, it's so that, these two, the Wagners, are going, hey, this is a piece of cake. We got these three angels. And the others laugh because they know that that won't last. And sure enough, it doesn't last because the kids start pressing the parents' emotional buttons. But the Wagners manage to keep everything and keep the kids in check by showing that the love they have for these kids is real and it's unconditional. Right? So this is apparently based on the real life experiences of co-writer and director Sean Anders. He did the Daddy's Home films, the two films that also starred Mark Wahlberg, and he did Horrible Bosses too. And he and his wife, he and his wife adopted 3 children through the foster care system. So this movie plays like a public service announcement. And there's statistics being thrown about, there's challenges being talked about, and apparently in America, I don't know about Canada, but in America, not here because they took that little thing out. At the end credits, there's a website. For more information about foster parenting your child, please check out this website. So it is a public service announcement. It's ridiculous. So I don't know. And the film's other foster parents include a mixed race gay couple, because of course you have to have a mixed race gay couple, tick, 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 tick. You have a devoutly Christian couple who are the fodder of many of the film's jokes. There's an uptight single woman who wants to foster an African-American child so that she can provide him with an opportunity to excel in sports and he can become a professional athlete and basically pay her back. I mean, it's just like tick, 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 and what it says is, in other words, anybody can become a foster parent these days. And, if you're not into 2 a.m. feedings or changing diapers, this is the way to go. But what really irks me is it's not like this is the way to go. This is the way to go if you want to adopt. Now, I don't know. Look, I live here in Hong Kong. I don't know the situation in America, but my understanding is foster parenting, the goal of foster parenting is to provide children with a safe and secure and sort of a loving environment, a loving home environment for kids until they can be reunited with their parents, mother or father or both. And what this film shows is that if you want to adopt an older child and you don't want to go the traditional route, and there's a number of reasons why you may not want to, this is the way to do it. You foster them and then you adopt them. First of all, I don't think that's correct. And I think it's wrong. It's wrong. These are somebody else's children, and you shouldn't be encouraging parents, adults, to say this is the way you can adopt kids. You shouldn't be sending a message out to kids saying this is a way you. I just thought this is wrong. And look, I live in Hong Kong. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not aware of the state of foster care and adoption these days. I could be wrong. I just thought it sets both parties up for failure. And because parents do come back sometimes, quite often they come back. And I don't know that you should be encouraging this sort of behavior. So anyhow, as well-intentioned as this film is, this film's heart is in the right place. But I thought, well, my jaw was hanging open. Like the whole film, Liz and I kept looking over at her, and we're like this, But everybody was laughing, and that made it even more like, I can't believe people are laughing at this movie. It's horrible. It's a horrible movie. But actually, I did laugh a couple of times when Pete's mother, Grandma Sandy, showed up, played by the wonderful Margot Martindale, who was in Downsizing and August Osage County. She's been in many, many films and TV shows over the years. She is the film's bright spot. She was wonderful. She steals every scene that she's in, and she made the film good. But for the rest of the film, I was going, oh my God. So, you know what? I think I am cynical. I'm a horrible person. I just did not like this film at all. Look, I didn't I don't want to say I hated this film, and it's not a. I don't want to say it's not a badly made film. It's just I just think the messaging was all wrong, and yeah, the messaging was all wrong, and it's a public service announcement. So I did not like this film, but audiences are lapping it up. They are loving it. So you know what? You're going to go see it, and you're going to think I'm wrong. Fine, go think I'm wrong. I don't care. Go like this film. I don't care. This is my opinion. So that's called Instant Family. Opened yesterday in Hong Kong. The last film I'm going to talk about very briefly, because I said I just saw it last night and I need to think more about it, is called Glass. And this is the third installment of writer-director M. Night Shyamalan's trilogy, I was going to say tragedy, trilogy that began in 2000 with the film Unbreakable. It continues 16 years later with the film Split. And many of the original characters are back, including David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, and his son Joseph, played by Spencer Treat Clark. He was in the original, and he's back. He's now an adult. He was a kid in the original. Now he's an adult. Elijah Price, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and his mother, Charlene Woodard. She was in both as well. And Kevin Wendell Crumb and his 23 other personalities, played by James McAvoy. And one of his captives from Split, Casey Cook, the one that got away, Casey Cook, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. They're all back. And this time, they're joined by psychologist Dr. Ellie Staple, played by Sarah Paulson, who she played Marcia Clark in the 10-part series about the People versus O.J. Simpson, and she was in Blue Jay. She's a wonderful actress. I think she's in bird thing with Sandra Bullock. She's in that film as well, which I haven't seen. I probably won't see it. And so she plays psychologist Dr. Ellie Staple, whose mission it is to convince the three men that they suffer from delusions of superheroism. And you know what? I didn't see a trailer and I didn't read any reviews, but I heard this week as the reviews started coming out, I heard that people said it's horrible. And again, Liz and I and a couple of our other colleagues, when we all saw it yesterday, we're thinking, oh God, we're going to hate this film. And you know what? For the first hour, I was sitting there going, okay, you know what? It's really not as bad as people were making out. It is slow. It's, a couple times I closed my eyes. It is very slow. There's a lot of talk. There's not a lot of action, but it barely held my interest for the first hour, because I thought, okay, maybe it's going to go somewhere interesting. I was willing to give it a chance that it was going to go somewhere interesting. But guess what? It doesn't. It gets crazier. It gets crazier and less interesting. And even worse, at the end of the movie with the big showdown scene, it looks like the director ran out of money. I mean, it's so cheaply done. And really, it's a letdown. The big scene is the huge showdown scene is a letdown. I don't want to reveal. No, I'd love to reveal something. No, I'm not going to reveal anything. But it's just the ending is just bad. And for most of the film, we watch Samuel L. Jackson's character Elijah Price. He's in a drug-induced catatonic state. And I feel at the end that's pretty much this movie. This movie's catatonic. There's not a lot of action in this movie, and the action that there was is really cheaply done. Look, and maybe he did run out of money. I don't know. But from what I heard, the original cut of this movie is 3 hours 20 minutes, and the cut that we ended up you'll end up seeing, or not if you choose. The cut that I saw was 2 hours 9 minutes. So, I mean, maybe there's another hour there. God, you know what? You could not pay me enough money to see another hour of this film. As it is, at 2 hours and 9 minutes, it's about 30 minutes too long. It's really. I don't want to say it's a horrible film. It's just not a good film at all. I don't recommend you see it. If you've seen Unbreakable and Split, you might want to see it just to see what happens to these three characters. Not that interesting. If you haven't seen Unbreakable and Split, you don't need to see it to know what's happening in this film. You can come into this film cold and understand what's going on fairly quickly. Um, but you probably won't bother. It's not a good film. So that's called Glass, M. Night Shyamalan's latest film. Not good. All right, that's it. Kept it under half hour today. Have a great weekend. Next week, going to talk about a few indie films, and I forget what else is opening next week. There's a local film, no, a French film called Sink or Swim, which you might have. There was a British version of it, and now there's a French version called Sink or Swim. That's out. And I think there's another film I'm talking about. Anyhow, that's it. Have a good week. Bye.